Welcome back to Deadly Creatures.
Oh, the WWF really won when they got that name for the World Wildlife Federation.
Hey, I wonder where that dirtbike guy is. I'm getting kind of hungry.
The dust effect and everything on the camera in this is really good. Like, for a shovelware console, they did really well.
Well, I mean, you put dirt on the shovel.
Okay. Alright. It's okay, fella. The mosquitoes are bad in Michigan, too.
Okay, so these are dust mites. Blood-sucking mites. They slow you down when they start sucking on you, and you just gotta use the horizontal waggle, which is either the tail whip for the scorpion or the spin attack for the tarantula.
So shake the bed bugs off.
Yep, pretty much. These first ones are kind of unavoidable, and in later levels they actually start patrolling back and forth across the level, and you can kind of dodge them.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty cute gimmick, I gotta say. So I like the brambles as kind of an extra gimmick in this level. It's pretty interesting.
That's really well done, and the music is very fitting.
Oh yeah, the music is excellent. It's very ambient. There actually aren't that many tracks, individual tracks. There's only about 7 or 8 tracks on the soundtrack, but they're really good. And in the tradition of, I think it's like James Newton Howard, who had really terrible puns for track names. They're all either terrible puns or just pop culture references. My favorite one has to be "bite" at the end of the tunnel.
Well done.
Yeah, no matter how much I practice these levels, I find that any competence I have in this game just completely goes out the window as soon as I start hitting record.
The web shooter does not look easy to aim.
Well, the web
At
shooter,
all.
I think the quick fire was deliberately gimped when it came to turning it off, turning the aim assist off. Although, as I mentioned in the last video, they do give you pretty generous aim assist with your attacks, kind of like in God of War, where they lead you with your attacks to compensate for the lack of lock-on.
Gotcha. I'm trying.
These, I think, are widow spiders.
They do look like Black Widows.
Except thanks to the color grading, they look kind of blue. I guess it's not supposed to be literally black. Thankfully, we do have some bug and insect experts in the Something Awful thread who are going to correct us and chide us for our lack of knowledge. Left over from a previous Let's Play attempt done by Fiendly last year. And he had some excellent knowledge dumps on his thread, which are being ported over to ours. And I have to give a huge shout out to Fiendly for all the previous knowledge that we are leeching off of, like some sort of bug.
Thank you, sir.
And while I was making that terrible joke, we learned a new move, the Venom Pounce.
We can poison stuff now.
Yep. So the tarantula, not the scorpion, the tarantula now has a damage over time attack that he could use. It's not quite as powerful as the sting that the scorpion has, though. Yeah, I've cut down the loading in future videos. Depending on how quickly you move through the levels, loading can take upwards of 9 or 10 seconds.
So typical for a Wii title.
No, not when it's dynamic loading like this. I mean, usually Wii games, when they're not pushing the processor like this, they tend to run, they tend to load pretty quickly. Also, I love this set piece with a Christmas garden gnome.
Oh, David the gnome betrayed us.
And here, I think it's the widow spider. They could set traps in the environment, and you have to waggle to get out of them.
Oh, that's cool.
So, believe it or not, that longer than usual animation with enemies going on their backs actually does have a mechanical use later on. We won't be seeing it in this video, but we will be seeing this in video 4.
So they don't give you a ton of stuff right off the bat.
No, they unlock moves slowly. The way that it works is it's unlocked based on XP, but it's XP. The progression system is based on how many enemies you kill in a level. So it's possible to unlock certain moves early within a level, but you're not going to unlock a Chapter 5 move in Chapter 3. But you can unlock it earlier in Chapter 5 than you normally would if you go out of your way to kill more enemies than you normally would on the normal path.
Now, was that a Rattler I just saw?
That was the same rattlesnake from the first video.
Oh. I gotta hand it to them. They really did well with the graphics. I'm gonna spend most of this amazed at the graphics and not believing that this is a Wii game, but this is a Wii game.
Yeah. There's a whole Game Informer postmortem that the developers at Rainbow Studios did on this, which I actually have that old issue tucked away somewhere in my basement. I gotta dig that up and see if I can gain anything on the game's development from that. Yeah, fighting scorpions is a little easier when you get the venom pounds, but it's still a bit random because there aren't many other enemies that the tarantula fights that have the ability to block, aside from the scorpions and a couple other heavier enemies.
Oh, that's a shoe.
Yeah, that's a shoe.
I thought that was a snake shed for a minute.
Alright, so coming up is... I mean, there's several vistas that are really impressive, but coming up is one which... It's not graphically impressive, but it's one that I think is pretty cute. And it's one of my favorites in the game because of that.
It's not another lawn gnome, you know, giving birth to spiders, is it?
Nope.
Okay, that's a cute.
I don't know what I like more about that. Whether it's the god rays that are coming out of the top of the cell phone, whether that it's clearly like a not Nokia flip phone, or that it's using the old tritone call not or cell phone not found signal. I love everything about that little set piece.
It's so weird. It just belongs in this game.
And since everyone knows, like everyone in like the mid-2000s would know exactly the size of a Nokia flip phone, it's a perfect representation of that kind of scale. Oh, by the way, I should point out, a flip phone was, there was this thing that people would put to their ears. You wouldn't be able to access the internet. Actually, you could, but only in text form.
You opened it and you pressed the numbers on it, and when you held it to your ear, you could talk to somebody on the other side.
Yeah, magical technology, I gotta say. Actually, I was in high school. I graduated high school in like 2007, 2008, and I remember this was just around the time that Apple was starting to bring out the iPhone in the U.S. Out here in Canada, the iPhone would come out like a year or two later. And there was a kid in my class. I think his name was Emmanuel. Yeah, his name was Emmanuel. And he had his father bought him an iPhone, even though there was like I think only one cellular carrier in Canada even carried it, or even accepted it in the U.S. And we were all just sitting there in awe at this thing as he brought it with him to school one day. It was the most magical thing, because we all still had, most of us who could afford it still had flip phones at the time, and we were just entranced by this new iPhone technology. It was incredible.
We've come a long way.
I mean, you gotta understand, the iPhone was remarkable for the time, and we were all incredibly envious. I wonder where Emmanuel is today. I doubt he's watching this, because, I mean, if from my memory of him, if he does watch any Let's Plays, they're probably like of either Call of Duty or maybe like F1 Autosport games. Actually, you know what? He would probably play the kind of games that Rainbow Studios used to make before this. Like, they did, like, motocross and ATV games before. Also, this jump sucks. Like, I actually died at least 2 or 3 times lining up here, and when you die, you go back to the previous save point. There are no checkpoints in between.
Yeah, this does not look friendly for precision platforming.
Yeah, precision platforming, especially with gravity, with the shifting gravity planes, is probably some of the worst parts of the game.
Mario Galaxy, you are not Spider.
Yeah.
Where are you, Lucky Cricket?
If you fail even one of these QuickTime events in this section, instant death.
This...
And there's 3 of these webs you have to go through.
It's a giant widow trap?
Yep. Usually widow traps involve an insurance policy of some kind.
A gas explosion, a brake line cut. No, just spiders.
So this is also one of the toughest fights in the game. Because the red widows over there, they could do extremely dangerous damage over time attacks, and I think I get hit a couple times by them. And the only way to restore your health is with some of the limited grubs that are spilled out through the arena here. And, like, maybe the odd cricket or two. Yeah, I got hit there. You can clearly see, look at my health draining just from the poison,
Whoa.
as well as the attacks. So, you gotta retreat and find either like 1 cricket and maybe like 1 or 2 grubs.
I never want to go outside again.
Or at least not go into any trees where there may be widow spiders. So you can see that little bit of like that green gaseous aura, which is your visual tell as to when a character has been poisoned.
Yep.
And generally speaking, you don't want to take the fight up over there onto the tops, because the game will glitch out.
I have consumed you and gained your knowledge.
Yeah, this is a running gag of the tarantula eating his enemies. At long last, a Wii game that truly makes you feel like Spider-Man.
I was just about to...
The web jump is it's an interesting gimmick, I guess, at points. But it's odd because of placement in a couple of areas. I don't know. It's hit and miss. It all depends on level design. The actual gimmick behind it is okay, but not every level that uses it is fun.
That's a cool idea, no doubt.
Yeah, and it does get a couple of expansions later on in terms of complexity that make it a little more interesting. But for now, it's just basically like the grappling hook in Zelda, essentially. And the controls are actually pretty similar to the way that the hookshot worked in Twilight Princess.
Okay, so it's aim, swing the Wiimote around,
Yeah.
get on your target, and pull.
Yeah, pretty much. And to make the Zelda comparisons even more pronounced, we are in a giant tree. I had an owner once. He loved to play the hell out of Ocarina of Time. This is old hat for me.
If the next swarm of bugs flies up to you and goes, "Hey, listen," I'm out.
Poor bastard never could get past the water temple.
That... I'm just awestruck by how big these areas seem, and I know there's got to be like development tricks to make it all come together, but
we'll be looking at some of that, I think, in the next video.
Oh,
at least when it comes to Struggs and Wade, because there's a really interesting mechanic as to how Struggs and Wade work whenever they enter the frame.
Bounty hunters were still coming after both, so they buried the gold out here somewhere, still in a locked box that they stole from the Confederates. His brother died later that day, maybe that night, so Looms gave him a proper burial close by. Well, proper as you can get for a deserter and an outlaw. Anyway, what Looms didn't know, or was too rushed to figure out, is that he'd put his brother in the coffin with the other part of the map still in his coat.
Well, let's hope it ain't all rotted out.
I'm counting on it.
So how come your old man never went looking for this stuff himself?
Because he was drunk.
So that right there is basically Struggs' plan to get the gold, is to dig up this other brother and his coffin and get the other half of the map he doesn't have. And none of that is subtitled in the original game. I was flummoxed for the longest time as to why so much of the game isn't subtitled. Eventually I figured it out. When it's just in-game stuff, like when you're in control, that's not subtitled. But everything where it's a machinima cutscene, where you're not in control, all of that is subtitled. So I guess they never developed a scripting system for making subtitles for stuff where you're actually in gameplay, where you're in control.
it's the day before release. Oh shit, we forgot.
Yeah, because that conversation is really, really important. Like, I guess you could figure out part of their story without it, but for those who are hard of hearing...
Ah, now there's the beauty. Come on out of there, you.
I gotta get this for my daughter.
Ladies, she'll cuddle him all night long.
And
she will love him and hug him and pet him.
For those of you who saw the interview video that I posted a couple of days ago, there is a great story involving Billy Bob Thornton and a Rosie Boa that he had when he was in a garage band in California in his youth. And if you haven't, it's in the playlist. It's a great story. I'm not going to ruin it for you, but it's it's definitely worth watching that video just for that one story.
Yeah, absolutely check that out because Billy Bob Thornton was enamored with the concept behind this game. And we're about to see if that pays off over the course of this Let's Play.
So what did you think of this level? I realize it hasn't really escalated in terms of the insanity, but I think as a sophomore follow-up to the insanity of the previous two chapters, I think it's done decently.
A little more sedate, a little bit better world building. the sense of scope and scale is done really well in this. Beautiful graphically, like I said, for a Wii game. And this game came out alongside literally hundreds of Cabela's big game sports hunters. Video not sponsored by Cabela's, obviously, and Orv's duck hunting games. Video not sponsored by Orv's, obviously. Orvis, however you say it. This is a unique experience from what I've seen so far, and I love it. I'm really enjoying it. It's very quaint. It's a departure from what I would traditionally play, but I love it. It's amazing.
Would you say it subverted your expectations?
Yes, it absolutely did. Like are we gonna be the first people to finish a Let's Play of this?
Well, as far as I can tell, we're only the second group to actually try to LP this. So yeah, because Feenley only got to chapter 6. So yeah, I think we're gonna. I absolutely intend to finish this because it's worth playing just for the final boss alone. So we are going to the final boss.
We just need to get out in the desert, dig up that map, find that gold, and we're sitting pretty.